Hello, Peter. Here at the slightly before the show opens, NAMM 2018. Sensel. We've seen this before, but tell me a bit what's happened since last time we saw you guys.
Quite a few things have happened. We've actually refined the controller quite a bit. We launched the controller for general sale on our website at Sensel.com. So it's available to order in Europe and in North America. And you can order it and get it delivered to your door as you would expect it. We launched with a Kickstarter about 2.5 years ago and finished fulfilling that in the summer and then launched the product properly to the public.
So just a quick recap, what is Sensel?
Sensel, at its core, is a pressure sensor of over 20,000 pressure sensors with incredible dynamic range and sensitivity. And on this pressure sensor, we can swap with different overlays. In this case, we have a piano swapping to a drum pad layout, swapping to more of an MPC music controller layout with your knobs and 4x4 grid.
And it's smart enough to know what it's got. Is it like RFID or something like that? So
it's not RFID. On the back of every overlay, you can see that there are 8 magnets in these strips. There's 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Those secure it in place on the base controller, but they also identify it with using the polarity of the magnets.
Oh, right, okay, cool, that's an interesting way. So, applications, I mean, obviously you've got, many different applications, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of applications. Here at NAMM, we're showing primarily the music applications. So we have it working with Bitwig Studio using the new MPE standard that's about to be released by MIDI. And we're also showing it with Ableton Live, since that's a really popular electronic music software.
And is there some sort of interpretation layer that has to happen to sort of say, right, do this?
No, absolutely. It just shows up as a MIDI controller. So you put it on an overlay, it sends a message to the computer saying that I'm a USB MIDI controller, class compliant. I can work on Windows, I can work on iOS, I can work on Apple, I can work on Linux. And
how do you, but presumably you can configure custom messages and what have you, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's an application called the Sensel App that allows you to reconfigure all of the controls. So you could actually turn the piano into a typewriter if you wanted to. You could turn our video editing overlay into a DJ controller. You could turn the drum pad overlay and put the Sensel Morph on the floor and turn that into a hotkey controller for shortcuts and macros for your video editor. I mean, so it's really infinitely flexible. These could be used for lots of different softwares, for lots of different people doing creative work.
So is there something going on the screen here that we... all right, so you've got this set up with Bitwig, right?
I've got it set up with Bitwig Studio. In this case, I'm using the MPE standard, so we can use the after pressure, and we can use the glide up and down on that, and that's just using some internal samplers in Bitwig. I also have some examples using Rolly's Equator software. So this is sort of a nice acoustic guitar. That blends into a nice sort of distorted guitar. So you can,
so it's fully MPE. So
it's fully MPE, yes.
So how many points of multiple touch can it handle?
On its own, it can hold up to 16 points of touch.
So hands and feet.
Exactly, or 2 hands.
2 hands, yeah. No, discount thumbs.
2 pairs of hands without their thumbs.
Right.
Yes.
So I mean, the base unit itself. So that's where all the sort of smart stuff happens, and then there's what is it? A micro USB output. What's the?
It's micro USB, but it also does Bluetooth. So you can hook this up wirelessly as a Bluetooth MIDI device. So you can use it wirelessly with iOS and the Android phones that support MIDI Bluetooth.
So it's got some sort of battery inside it, chargeable unit, right? Are we rechargeable?
Absolutely, yeah. It has a battery and it can last about 4 to 6 hours. Okay. Yeah.
So these are the basic ones. Are there any other overlays that you could do? I mean, did I see that you could do custom ones as well?
There are custom ones. We can take a look at our display over here. This shows most of our overlays. This has a QWERTY overlay. We also have a Dvorak and a Zerdy layout. This is the video editing overlay, which is designed to work with Adobe Premiere, but using the app you can reconfigure it for any video editing. It's basically a hotkey and macro controller for video editing. This is a gaming controller, so this sends out USB gaming controls. And again, you can reprogram this for, at NAMM, it's probably more appealing as an alternative control surface.
Yeah, sure.
And then this is the MPC, or music production controller. So it has a 4x4 grid that's pretty common for drum layouts, and it has 8 knobs that are you can use with touch, 2 nice long sliders, and then a little chiclet keyboard down here, which is great for bass lines. The cool thing about this is these actually send on different MIDI channels, so you can activate a couple different tracks in your DAW.
And they can be, velocity, pressure, and release velocity? Do they handle that as well?
Yeah, we do have release. We just added release velocity. So if you want to use MPE, you have your full velocity sensitivity, you have your after pressure, you have your horizontal, or your vertical motions, and then you also have your back and forth with pitch bend. And then when you release, it can detect that velocity, and that can be attached to something.
And I notice you've got several here. Does that mean you can kind of hook up multiple units and have them all kind of mapped to various different things?
Yeah, so this is pretty cool because each one is mapped to different instruments, but because they're connected to unique things, this is now a drum set. On this one, it's mapped to percussion. And then over here, it's probably another different type of drum set. That's an electronic, acoustic, and then percussion.
That's neat.
Right, so you can set these things up in different ways. You can also, of course, have like a big long piano if you want to.
So what have you got? Is there something we can see that the actual sort of assignment, the controller assignment interface?
You want to take a look at the app?
Yeah,
okay,
I'd love to, yeah.
Okay, so this is the Sensel app. Maybe the coolest thing to show when you first open it is the visualizer. And this gives you an idea of how the pressure is interpreted by the device as you put your fingers on it.
Oh wow, can you use it without an overlay?
You can use it without an overlay. And there's an API that works with Python, C++, C, C#, Arduino, and Max MSP.
Like for maybe a massage chair.
Right, maybe. Right, you could convert this into transducers on a massage chair.
Nice. That's really interesting. So yeah, you can see that's very sort of real time and
right. And I mean, you can give it a feather touch, just a feather light touch. You can see it sensing those touches, and that's usable information. And then it's also cool because you can take this. It's not just pressure and location. You also get the size of the contact. So this is different from just a finger point. That reports different information to the API. You can also twist your finger around.
Oh, so you get rotation.
Yeah, so you can use this as a knob.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
And then you would just assign that to, some kind of MIDI controller.
Yeah, well then you could use a programming environment or a programming language to convert this information into something else.
But for everybody else who perhaps doesn't want to get into that, how do they convert their MIDI, this MIDI control? Say if I've got, one of the pad and I decide actually I want it to do something slightly different.
This is the best example. So we put this on, and I can go to the music production overlay, and this is kind of interesting. This is more or less the standard layout, starting with C1 on this pad here, and you can see when I click on that, it pulls up this.
All right, so you got after pressure.
Right.
MIDI note. Yeah. Okay.
So I can change the type of message it is, and then I can change, given the type of message, change different parameters that it'll control. In this case, I'm using a standard MIDI note with after pressure.
Can you change the range and the scaling and that sort of stuff?
Not yet.
But I guess that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think probably the most worthwhile thing is the velocity scaling, and we'll be incorporating that in a future update. Because different people have different expectations of how it should feel on their fingers.
Sure.
So this particular one is an MPE controller, so you can see it gives me an opportunity for note, pressure, and then X and Y controls. MPE by definition uses the channel aftertouch, pitch bend, and CC74, but in our software you can actually use any CC and use it in any software as some sort of alternative controller for synthesizers and sound design.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So I noticed also you've got some kind of Arduino monster here.
Yes, exactly. So using the developer's cable, you can just turn it into regular UART serial, and I've got this attached to an Arduino and a DMX shield. And using the using the Arduino API, I've got these par lights, and I have a couple color wheel circles here that are controlling the DMX lights. So now these are, more or less in sync with the colors, and I can tap, and then I can also press harder and engage strobe.
Right, so it's an interesting idea. I mean, do you see that there's any other ways you could go with either haptic or light-based feedback, so that you can have maybe something shining through a button or a knob? Or I mean, I guess you're getting into iPad territory, aren't you?
Why, yes, we do. We do have things like that in development. And that is definitely the future of the technology, of being able to shine through the pressure sensor, or be able to use the pressure sensor with some sort of light emitting layer between your fingers and the pressure. So yes, that is definitely a development we're working on, but that's for the future. What we have right now is already amazing.
So people can buy this now, right? They can.
Yeah, go to Sensel.com, go to our shop. We have base units for sale, and then we have some bundles that combine the base unit with some popular overlays.
What is the starting price? What's the sort of entry?
The base unit is $299, and the overlays are $35 a piece.
Right, so they're very affordable, the overlays, once you've bought into the system.
Once you bought into the system, the overlays are very affordable, and they're also extremely flexible, not just in design, but also in the nature of how you use them, because you can reprogram them for so many different things.
Right. Peter, thank you very much.
All right, great.